Good morning. We're ready to call the board meeting to order. It is Wednesday, August 20th. The time is 10:03 a.m. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Good morning. Chairman Gaines.
Here.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Here.
Member Vasquez.
Present.
Member Schaefer is not present. And Deputy Controller Emron.
Present. Great. A quorum is present, and the board meeting is called to order. I want to clarify that Member Schaefer is delayed in his flight, and he'll be joining us around 10:30, hopefully. And why don't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Member Vasquez, would you do the honors? Sure. Thank you.
Ready to begin. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got opening remarks, and I'd like my colleagues to go ahead and have the opportunity to speak, and then I can wrap it up. And anybody like to make some opening comments? Okay, we'll start with you, Tony, and we'll go across. Wonderful.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chair Gaines. I know we're on a real tight schedule, so I'll try to be quick and brief. But first, I want to just open up with August 29th, which is around the corner here, is the 55th anniversary of the Chicano Moratorium, a rally held in 1970 when an estimated 20 to 30,000 people marched through East LA to peacefully draw attention to the disproportionate number of high folks, specifically Mexican Americans at the time, that fought and lost their lives in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War. The demonstration, for the most part, was very peaceful. Unfortunately, it ended up on a kind of a violent note where 3 people lost their lives. The one that really stands out in my mind, he happened to be at the time the KMEX, before Univision was Univision, it was KMEX, news director and LA Times award-winning writer back then, Ruben Salazar. And actually, the irony is that a good friend of mine that I grew up with, Pete Moraga, his dad, senior, is the one that took his spot. And those are some huge shoes to fill. Later it became Univision, and it was kind of one of the landmarks. At the end of the day, pretty much the moratorium and this whole rally was really to just kind of bring light to, one, the Vietnam War, and then also they also were bringing light and attention to the disproportionate number of folks, especially at that time at the universities, or the lack of Latinos at that time at the universities, mostly the UC campuses and state colleges. And it's had this last long impact on the movement throughout pretty much the Southwest. It'll be celebrated this coming weekend in LA. Second, I just wanted to also acknowledge August is Black Business Month and celebrate Black-owned businesses in the United States. The goal is to highlight and empower Black business owners across the country. Black Business Month also brings attention to the unique obstacles Black entrepreneurs often encounter, including access to capital, system barriers, and historical disadvantages. The observances encourages consumers to actively support Black-owned businesses throughout their purchasing power and by spreading awareness. Support for the Black-owned businesses should be a year-round to foster economic growth and wealth building in the Black community. The ultimate goal is to create more equitable and inclusive business landscape where Black entrepreneurs can thrive. With that, I'll turn it back to my chair.
Wonderful. Thank you. Vice Chair Lieber?
Thank you. Well, I'd like to start my remarks by acknowledging the significant success of our California economy. And I know that all of our board members are cognizant of the fact that last April, data from the International Monetary Fund and the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis showed that California had overtaken the nation of Japan to become the fourth largest economy in the world. Our robust GDP reached 4.1 trillion compared to Japan's 4 trillion. Our 2024 growth rate of 6% not only exceeded the growth rate of the US at 5.3%, but also China at 2.6% and Germany at 2.9%. California's robust economy means that we are a net donor state to the federal government, and our state sends $83 billion more annually to the federal government than we receive in federal funding back to our communities. The $83 billion that we send as a net donation is larger than the state budgets of all but 3 states, New York, Texas, and California. So we have a really outsized footprint economically on our country. However, the success and strength of the California economy cannot protect businesses from the impacts of federal policies. And the latest major news in that regard deals with Del Monte Foods, and they are a longtime California business, started in 1886, have provided employment to generations of Californians. During this month, the Del Monte Food Company, located in Walnut Creek, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And they cited as a major contributing factor the new federal taxes, tax tariffs on imported steel and aluminum that are used in their canning process. The cost for metal cans that are integral to their business model and integral to the export of food from California spiked significantly in April and May due to these new taxes. The Del Monte CEO emphasized that aluminum costs on top of steel duties have forced the company to consider an expedited sale process. So that is likely a fire sale of the entire business that will really impact employment in California. Although many factors go into business decisions, we need to remain mindful of our role in exports and our role in terms of agriculture and business in California. And as revenue administrators, we need to be very aware of the impacts of recent trade policies on California's businesses and our long-term economic prospects. Although California is a significant donor to federal revenues, we have an outsized impact also on global economies. And it's really our duty to remain very vigilant about these impacts. And as a state, we will not be able to backfill all of the needs of our communities that result from the federal policies, but we must understand their impact on the longtime businesses of our state, and particularly those that have a very lengthy legacy of employment of those who need it and support for our agricultural sector. So I know that our board members will stay cognizant of these changing trends, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. And we'll now move to Deputy Controller Emmerich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say good morning to my fellow board members, to the agency, the executive director, and members of the public. What a summer it has been. We're now towards the end, and I'll be remiss not to mention August 2025 as Muslim American Heritage Month. Approximately 1 million American Muslims currently reside in California. It's the largest group in the entire country, with roots in at least 77 different countries. Identifying across every race, Muslim Americans have always been deeply engaged in building stronger communities for all. By learning more about Muslim American history and culture, We can challenge Islamophobia, promote greater understanding and respect, because we've heard too many stories of violence and discrimination, too many Californians in fear of being treated differently in school, excluded at work, or risking harassment just by walking down the street. And these are not isolated incidents, but hateful acts targeting those who are perceived to be of the Muslim faith, which is becoming much too common. As Californians, we must stay true to our core values, and that includes religious freedom for all faiths. And when any religious group is targeted, we all have a responsibility to speak up, to reject the politics that seeks to divide us and manipulate us and target people because of religion. We have to reaffirm our state's most fundamental rights and truths, that we are all born equal with inherent dignity. And we are blessed to live in a golden state where even if sometimes we stumble or fall short, we never stop striving. We keep moving closer to that California dream. We're a state where if you work hard and you play by the rules, you can ultimately make it no matter who you are, or how you pray, or where you come from. It may not always start even in the race, but here in California, more than any other place in the world, there's an opportunity to run that race. And lastly, I want to also start off my morning in South Sacramento. There was a huge line wrapped around the block, and I was looking, and this huge sign, it's the first day of school. And I want to just wish all the millions of California school children here a great school year. It's that butterfly feeling you have when you walk into a class, especially a new class, to make new friends and learn. But education is the core to a democratic society. And I want to wish all the young kids to keep striving and keep chasing your dream, that California dream. And then I want to end it with a shout out to our own intern who's going back to UC San Diego, Audrey. She had a great summer at SEO. And I want to wish you the best of luck back at UC San Diego. And I'll be here in May to wish everyone a happy graduation too. Thank you.
Is she here?
Yes.
Should we have her stand up and
If you
recognize
can, please,
her?
Audrey. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and
Yeah,
yield back.
thank you very much, Deputy Controller Emran. And yeah, your points are really poignant, and appreciate it. It's so important that we have our First Amendment right of speech, but also the freedom to practice our faith, whatever that faith is. So thank you. Just a couple of comments here. I did want to share with you that Labor Day weekend is the official opening of Apple Hill, and that's one of my counties that I represent, and it's coming just around the corner. And so for those of you who haven't heard of Apple Hill, it's a collection of fruit growers and wineries in El Dorado County in my district, and it's a great place to spend the day and checking out the arts and crafts, fresh fruit, apples, and much more. Incredible baked goods, fun games for the kids, all in a beautiful environment. It's just gorgeous up there. Secondly, I just wanted to recognize labor, because we are going to be celebrating Labor Day, and recognize the laborers who do all the hard work, the tough work that many of us just really don't want to do, and they do it day after day and year after year. And often when we're celebrating, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, they're still doing all the tasks that need to be done to keep a community running, and they drive our economy, and appreciate all the work that they do for us. And now it's time to segue into this hearing, which is one of my favorite hearings. I'm sure my colleagues agree. It's an opportunity to reach out to people that we represent throughout California. And sometimes they have an issue and they want to make sure that that issue is addressed. We try to do that as members of the BOE, and take calls and emails and try to help people out that are in a bind. But I think it's one of the most critical aspects of what we do in terms of helping our constituents. And so Lisa and her team do an extraordinary job giving guidance and solving problems. And some cases it could be life-changing. if it's a big decision. So I look forward to hearing that, and we will now move forward to Ms. Cicchetti. If you could please call the first order of business.
Good morning, everyone. Our first order of business is our safety and informational announcements. First, I want to remind the audience to silence their cell phones and any other wireless devices. Our safety announcement. In the auditorium, the exits are in the front and on each side of the stage, and other exits are at the rear. Please take a moment to find the exit sign and location closest to you in the event of an emergency. This board meeting will be live streamed to the public and posted on the BOE website. Public comments are taken on each agenda item. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. If you intend to make a public comment today using the AT&T moderator, we recommend dialing into the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of the agenda item you wish to comment on. We recommend this as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and we ask that all speakers in the auditorium and on the AT&T telephone line, please state your name before you begin to speak. This concludes the safety and informational announcements.
Great.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, the first item of the day is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing. This public hearing is held annually to allow taxpayers and stakeholders to comment on items in the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report or issues related to the agency's administration of its tax programs. Ms. Thompson will present and facilitate this item on the agenda. Today, our procedure is for Ms. Thompson to make her presentation. Then we will ask each taxpayer who has appeared in person today to come forward when they are identified. And I think it would be, after the taxpayer has an opportunity to speak, it'd be great also to get the background and have Ms. Thompson speak to that on each particular taxpayer issue. We can weigh in as members, obviously, no problem there. Then we are going to go also to the AT&T moderator to see if there are any taxpayers who wish to make a statement by telephone. Last, if there is any time, we will read into the record the written statements received by the taxpayers for this item. And I would imagine there's time for that, because that's important, right? Okay, so very well. You may proceed, Ms. Thompson.
So good morning, Chairman Gaines and honorable board members. My name is Lisa Thompson. I'm the agency's, sorry.
It's on, just line it up a little better, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Gaines and honorable board members. My name is Lisa Thompson. I'm the chief of the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office and the agency's Taxpayer Rights Advocate. I'm pleased to be here as we conduct the annual Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing. The hearing is held in accordance with the Morgan Property Taxpayer Bill of Rights and California Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It is to provide taxpayers the opportunity, as well as industry representatives, government agencies, and other parties, the opportunity to speak before this elected board. Before we extend the opportunity to the public to provide comment, I would like to go over some information on the format and purpose of the hearing, and then also discuss the main contents of the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Annual Report, which serves the basis for this hearing. The annual report is fiscal year 23-24, and it can be accessed on our agency's website, as well as a link through the memo that is attached to the public agenda notice for this meeting. As to the order of the speakers, Chairman Gaines already indicated that we'll be extending the opportunity to speak to those that notified us in advance of their interested in speaking, to the CAA president and anyone else attending here in person in Sacramento. Then we'll extend the opportunity to those on the phones before reading public comments into the record. Ms. Amy Hendrickson of my staff will be reading those written public comments that were submitted to us in advance of the hearing. In addition to any remarks that the board members may have, then I'll provide some comments on some of those that submitted comments in writings or those appearing before us. The purpose of this hearing, again, is to allow taxpayers and industry representatives the opportunity to provide comments on any items that are included in the annual report, as well as on any issues that may be related to the programs that we administer or that they may be working with our TRA office, as well as on property tax issues. Industry administration of its tax programs, including state and local property taxes, the alcoholic beverage tax, and the tax on insurers. The agency's taxpayer bill of rights hearing is held in accordance with certain statutory provisions. And for property taxes, it is Revenue and Taxation Code Section 5906D. And for the alcoholic beverage tax, it is Section 32463. Section 5906D states that the board shall annually conduct a public hearing soliciting input from assessors, other local agency representatives, and taxpayers to address the advocate's annual report pursuant to Section 5904 and to identify a means to correct any problem identified in that report. And Section 32463 states that the board shall conduct an annual hearing before the full board where industry representatives and individual taxpayers are allowed to present their proposals on changes to the alcoholic beverage tax law, which may further improve voluntary compliance and the relationship between taxpayers and the government. The TRA annual report that is applicable to this hearing is 2324, and that was published in February of 2025. That report included discussion on problems and issues in the area of property taxes and contained examples of property taxes cases that illustrate the services that our TRA office does to help taxpayers. Taxpayer education is also something that our office does, and we do that through the publication of information sheets that are written in simple, non-technical terms that are geared to assist taxpayers in various property tax topics and exclusions. Before we invite taxpayers to share their experience or voice their concerns, I would like to share some statistics on how many taxpayers that we helped this past year, and provide some information on our advocate's office to help to understand how we help taxpayers resolve their problems with the assessment or collection of property taxes. So for fiscal year 23-24, our office completed work on 329 cases. Those cases originated from taxpayers that contacted us through our website contact form, called our office directly, and they were also from contacts made from board members' offices that forwarded taxpayers to us to assist them. So we thank you for forwarding them. We also are contacted by assembly member offices as well as Senate offices who were contacted by their constituents. As far as totals, for the completed cases, 27% were from District 1, 32% from District 2, 20% from District 3, and 21% from District 4. Of those completed cases, 75% were in the evaluation category and 25% in the administrative category. The annual report identifies the specific topics within each of those categories, as well as a split within each district. The topic with the largest percentage of cases in the valuation category was exclusions from reassessment at 35%, followed by change in ownership at 16%. For the administrative category, the highest topic was delinquent or defaulted taxes at 30%. In addition to providing statistical information on completed cases, the annual report provides examples illustrating how our office helps taxpayers and problems are resolved. A large part of our role is actually to help facilitate resolution of the taxpayer's problem, and we do that by working with local agencies, county assessors, tax collectors, to obtain information on the assessment of their property, and also corresponding property taxes on the property tax bill. If the issue concerns work that's performed by our agency, then we would work with that applicable section to resolve the taxpayer's problems. We review each taxpayer's situation on a case-by-case basis, conduct research into the law and existing guidance pertaining to their situation, and then we contact local agencies to provide information to us, and then we provide an analysis and respond to the taxpayer. Generally, we help taxpayers with problems with the assessment or collection of property taxes on their property, ensuring that they are treated fairly according to the law. In many cases, we help taxpayers provide or identify the appropriate information to provide to assessors in order to resolve their problems. Let's see, at the February board meeting, I had a presentation of the TRA annual report, and that went over to some examples, so I'm not going to do that today. But generally, they involved exclusions from reassessment in the area of intergenerational transfers, as well as the co-tenancy exclusion, which we continue.
Prop 19, just to clarify.
Yes, the intergenerational transfer exclusion,
Yeah, thank
correct, is Proposition 19, one aspect of it. But
Yes.
yeah, base or value transfers for persons age 55, I believe that also was one of the examples, and we continue, quite frankly, to get problems in that area. Those are very broad. So in addition to helping taxpayers with specific problems they have with property taxes, our office can help with larger issues that can be, that brought about change that can affect more than one taxpayer. The issues are brought to our attention through people contacting our office or coming before this elected board at the TRA Bill of Rights hearing to share their concerns or their thoughts. So when we become aware of an issue that needs resolution, we work with the appropriate department to resolve that issue. The TRA annual report for 23-24 has a section on taxpayer education. So I wanted to just highlight one of those items in that report is basically the information sheets that we publish. We write those to taxpayers in simple and non-technical terms. They're intended to basically increase taxpayers' awareness of different property tax savings that may be available to them, as well as some other topics that we've expanded into the last year. The annual report identifies completion of one information sheet during that fiscal year, specifically on the availability of the co-tenancy exclusion. We also worked on 2 other educational publications during that fiscal year that were published shortly after that fiscal year. One of which was an information sheet on the reporting requirements for the death of a real property owner, which is important. So they're aware of all the different obligations that they need to make, and it can help them make decisions quickly in order to decide whether they want to move into a property that they may have inherited and qualify for the intergenerational transfer exclusion. So the other educational resource that we published during right after that fiscal year was an information guide on disaster relief, which is particularly important in that it talks about all the different types of relief available for taxpayers that were unfortunate to have been affected by disasters such as a fire. It contains everything in one spot, so they know what relief is available at the point of disaster, what happens when they rebuild or they decide to move to another property. So for today's Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing, we were notified in advance of 4 speakers before the hearing through contacts with Board Proceedings Division or our Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and there were 4 written comments that were submitted. One of those written comments actually was from a taxpayer, Mr. Nilsson, who has joined us in the audience today, so he'll be testifying before you or providing comments before you, rather. And one other written comment, she may actually call in the phone lines, but if she's not able to, then we will read her remarks that she provided in a document that's referred to as a written testimony. So the speakers that we have are as follows. So, yeah, so we have actually five then. So we have five. So the speakers that we have are Honorable Jeff Prang, the Los Angeles County Assessor and President of the CAA. Assessor Prang will actually speak first and then be joining us remotely on Teams, followed by Jennifer Rowe on behalf of California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates. Ms. Gina Rodriguez on behalf of Ryan LLC will be next. Then we have Brett Nelson, a taxpayer who, again, also submitted comments. And then we also have an additional speaker in the audience named Jesse Lee. So at this time, we will begin with those who notify us in advance that they'll be speaking, and then go into the phone lines. So that concludes my remarks. Unless there are any comments that the board members have, we can start inviting parties for their comments, and would like to start with Honorable Jeff Prang first.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, board members, I apologize. It doesn't appear as though I have visual capacity, but I'm happy to be here to have the opportunity to speak to you in my capacity as the president of the California Assessors Association. Today's Taxpayer Bill of Rights provides an important opportunity for taxpayers and stakeholders to offer feedback on the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Annual Report and to discuss ways that we can improve the property tax administrative system together, and as well as communications with the public. I'd like to begin by commending Lisa Thompson and the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office for her leadership in taxpayer education. The TRA office has really played an active role in helping county assessors educate taxpayers through a series of user-friendly information sheets. And these materials are written in plain language, help people to navigate the complex property tax topics, clearly serving as an essential resource for property owners as well as our offices. Since 2018, the TRA office and the California Assessors Association have collaborated to develop a range of educational materials designed to help taxpayers better understand key aspects of the property tax system. The information sheets are regularly updated to reflect statutory changes, such as those introduced by Proposition 19, and new topics are developed based on input from assessors across the state. At our October 2024 conference, the California Assessors Association agreed to the creation of several new publications, including How Property is Assessed, which is publication number 800-10, and this was published in July. I'd like to highlight one particularly impactful publication, the Information Guide for Disaster Relief for Damaged or Destroyed Property. This was released in August of 2024. Rather fortuitous, this guide provides essential information for property owners affected by disasters. Obviously, it's a growing concern, especially here in Los Angeles County, where many properties were devastated by wildfires earlier this year. The guideline outlines how to qualify for tax relief under Section 170 of the Revenue and Taxation Code, how properties taxes are adjusted, and what steps to take, whether the property is being rebuilt or the owner is relocating. It includes practical timelines and examples that make the process easier to understand. And this publication has been recognized by professionals in the field as a valuable resource for property owners due to its clarity and accessibility. It was formally announced in a letter to assessors 2024/028, and I encourage all assessors to make it widely available within their jurisdictions. The TRA office continues to expand and enhance its educational offerings to reflect legislative changes and support greater taxpayer understanding. Recent updates to the intergenerational transfer information sheets clarified important provisions such as filing deadlines, value caps, and eligibility requirements under Prop 19. Looking ahead, new publications are in the development on topics such as exemptions for nonprofit organizations and supplemental assessments, further helping taxpayers navigate the property tax system and comply with all applicable requirements. These educational efforts reflect a shared commitment between the TRA office as well as the California Assessors Association to help taxpayers understand their rights, responsibilities, and opportunities with greater clarity and confidence. So again, on behalf of the California Assessors Association, I want to thank the board and the TRA office for your continued collaboration and commitment to fairness, transparency, and public service.
Yeah, thank you so much, Assessor Prang. Appreciate what you're doing, representing your constituents in Los Angeles County, but also what you're doing as the president of the California Assessors Association. So we appreciate your engagement and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready for our next speaker? Any other comments at this stage? We're okay? All right, good.
So I would like to thank Assessor Prang for the comments on behalf of the Los Angeles County Assessor's Office, as well as the CAA. We're glad that the assessors find the information sheets useful, as well as the information guide for disaster relief valuable. So we do look forward to working with the Assessors Association on additional topics to increase taxpayer awareness.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next speaker that we have is Jennifer Rowe. She'll be speaking on behalf of the California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Gaines, honorable members of the board, my name is Jennifer Rowe, here today on behalf of the California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for your ongoing commitment to protecting taxpayer rights. First, we would like to thank the Taxpayer Rights Advocates Office for convening this meeting and would like to take the opportunity to discuss issues that arose out of last year's meeting that ultimately led to Member Vasquez establishing and convening the Assessor and Assessment Appeals Board Issues Working Group. We want to thank the board for your work over the past year to create and convene the working group. This collaborative forum has brought together stakeholders who don't always have the opportunity to sit at the same table. We are especially encouraged that many of the short, medium, and long-term recommendations of the working group's draft report closely align with the proposals CADA submitted in April of this year. This shared vision gives us confidence that meaningful reforms are within reach. Today, I want to highlight 4 priority areas where action is most urgently needed. The first is reducing delays in assessment appeals. In too many counties, complex property appeals that should take days are instead taking years, sometimes 18 to 24 months due to fragmented hearing schedules, limited board availability, and procedural bottlenecks. Stricter adherence to Property Tax Rule 323 and better training of assessment appeals board members can prevent unnecessary continuances and keep cases moving. Adoption of docketing systems like Los Angeles counties can further improve transparency and scheduling efficiency statewide. The second is timely processing of property tax refunds. Taxpayers are required to pay their bills on time, yet refunds after successful appeals can take 6 to 12 months or longer. We urge the board to support reforms, whether through updates to the state controller's manual or legislation to require rule corrections within 30 days of an AAB decision and issuance of refunds within 30 days of an enrollment. This would prevent hardship for taxpayers and reduce unnecessary interest costs for counties. The third is modernizing e-filing and electronic signatures. Inconsistent county rules for accepting electronic signatures, combined with outdated, cumbersome e-filing platforms, are leading to avoidable 10% penalties for taxpayers who file on time. A statewide system, clear guidance on signature acceptance, and a BOE-managed signature verification card program would provide uniformity, efficiency, and fairness for both taxpayers and assessors. And the last is addressing Proposition 19 challenges. Prop 19's rules for inherited properties and primary residence status have created confusion for taxpayers and significant administrative burdens for assessors. Simple, consistent messaging, along with better outreach to the public and the legal community, will help prevent unintended reassessments and preserve taxpayer protections. In closing, CADA strongly supports the adoption of the work group's recommendations, beginning with the short-term reforms that have broad agreement. We stand ready to partner with the board, county officials, and legislative leaders to ensure these improvements are implemented swiftly and effectively. Thank you again for your leadership, your openness to stakeholder collaboration, and your dedication to advancing taxpayer rights in California. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jen Rowe. We appreciate you representing CADA and representing taxpayers.
Thanks so much.
So we appreciate Ms. Rowe's comments on behalf of the California Alliance of Taxpayer Advocates. CADA serves an important role in protecting the rights of taxpayers in California, and we appreciate their outreach efforts to their members always to let them know about our information sheets as well as this hearing. We do appreciate their bringing the issues before this appeals on appeals and refunds, as well as electronic signatures. I just wanted to mention that as to electronic signatures, a county assessor's letter, only letter will be issued shortly addressing this matter, so. So unless there are any other comments, we can go to the next speaker, and this will be Gina Rodriguez, speaking on behalf of Ryan LLC.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Gina Rodriguez. I'm a principal at Ryan LLC. Ryan LLC is a global tax and technology firm. We have more than 6,000 employees. We are in more than 80 countries, and we are the largest firm in the world dedicated to business taxes, including property taxes. We are not bound by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which means we are uniquely positioned to advocate for best practices in government services to ensure taxpayers receive exceptional service. As such, we frequently collaborate with government officials and personnel to advance effective approaches in tax administration. We communicate openly and provide recommendations from an external perspective that benefit both the government and the public. Our shared goal is efficient and effective tax administration that ensures taxpayers pay the correct amount of tax, no more and no less. You heard me last year speak at previous hearings, in fact, about the LA County Property Tax Task Force that Assessor Prang has so kindly allowed us to continue. We started it a few years ago. I am the facilitator of that task force, and it was established to really deal with the unprecedented post-COVID backlog of 40,000 tax appeals, 40,000. We brought together not only the assessor, but we have 5 property tax administrators in each county. County assessor, the auditor controller, the treasurer tax collector, the executive office of the Assessment Appeals Board, the AAB, and then I had the county council, the LA County Council. So we have this group together along with a few trade organizations and a few highly respected property tax attorneys. And we were meeting monthly when we first started to try to tackle all the issues, and Jen explained some of them, delayed appeals and delayed refunds. And then we've really come a long way and solved a lot of problems already, and we've made some significant process improvements in the county, and we've yielded really positive results. The backlog now has been reduced by 75%, and appeals are being scheduled within a few months of receipt. The AAB now releases their notices of board action, which is their decisions, within 2 weeks of the decision. And further, with respect to delayed property tax refunds, we're seeing some improvement, but we really do have a long way to go. As Jen mentioned, we need to tackle that issue. I have a few recommendations today. Some recommendations, as you may know, will require legislation. Some will require county ordinances, and some will simply require process changes or form changes or new forms to get things done. Again, Jen thanked Member Vasquez. I thank you as well. We have a whole team thanking you for starting that work group. It was really, really important to start a work group to start discussing some of these issues and how to solve them. And the work group actually was one of the recommendations we had provided, knowing how well the LA County Property Tax Task Force worked. We needed to have a work group. In my capacity as a tax professional for more than 4 decades now, I have attended many conferences from the California Assessors Association. I've been a speaker at a few of them, including a few weeks ago in South Lake Tahoe. I do have firsthand experience of what it means to have in-person networking or in-person conversations and what can be accomplished by those conversations. We should be regularly engaging county property tax officials with tax professionals. It should be on a regular cadence. It should be happening simultaneously. We should be opening up communication channels, and this really will help identify efficiencies and cost savings, not only for counties and taxpayers, but also for the state. For example, in a 5-minute conversation with an assessor, you might hear about the many challenges they face, such as no-shows at the appeals. That costs them a lot of money. We need to hear about it. If we don't know about the problem, we can't tackle it and try to resolve it. In talking to property tax professionals, you might hear about the amount of paper they must use because there are no e-filing systems that allow batch processing. And I think I've shown you pictures in the past of 900 pounds of paper that we have to take into the U.S. Postal Service because there's no batch processing allowed in the counties for the e-filing. We are eager to partner with the board on these recommendations. Jen covered really the first 3 of mine. I'll go first with the e-signatures. The e-signature issue has been around for a very long time, even before COVID, because we had a bill, AB 1744 in 2003 is when we first tackled this. It was enacted into law and added subdivision K of section 441 to the Revenue Tax Code. And it actually requires the assessor's signature authentication and board approval. The problem is we don't have any guidance. I've talked to many counties, they don't have guidance, they're asking the board for guidance, we're asking the board for guidance on this. The board did release an LTA in 2020 resulting from COVID, but it doesn't quite go far enough. For example, we need to get down to specificity. How do we submit a paper return with a facsimile signature? How does that happen? I think the board just needs to work with the counties on that process, and we're happy to work with them as well. Jen covered deadlines as far as enrollment deadlines and refund deadlines. She mentioned 30 days, and we agree it should be a reasonable number of days to get those enrollments done, to make sure the roll is corrected, and to get the refunds out. I don't know if 30 days is the right answer. Happy to work with counties to figure out what would work for them. But really, taxpayers have to pay on time. Taxpayers have to file on time. And there's no reason counties should be waiting a year to get the rolls corrected. It really does cause a serious burden for them. And I have provided a letter, so there's more information in the letter on that. With respect to uniformity, we've discussed this in the past. We'd like the board to review significant inconsistencies among the 58 counties and make recommendations to county officials on how to reduce compliance burdens. All 58 assessors, we know, they can choose how they want to operate, but really the lack of consistency is problematic and very burdensome on taxpayers. For example, all 58 counties have different agent authorization forms for filing property statements. Based on our recommendation last year, the board agreed to develop a statewide form, which is in progress and should be before your board hopefully soon for approval. However, perhaps other statewide forms should be developed, which would lift the burden on taxpayers and provide the counties with some uniformity. Jumping over to intangibles, talked about this last year. There is zero guidance on how to value intangibles. That keeps leading to very expensive litigation, and we've asked the board to perhaps provide some guidance for valuing intangibles. Taxpayer addresses. I talked to almost every state agency about this. I feel like there should be an address czar in California because we have to file address updates with DMV, with FTB, with Secretary of State, with CDTFA, with BOE, and with each county. And it's very problematic. This is part of the problem we have identified in LA County. The bad addresses are part of the problem for the delayed refunds because the auditor controller is releasing the refund to an old address. It goes to bad address, then it gets bounced back, and it sits there and gets stale, and it really takes a massive effort to try to get the refund re-released. So we are still dealing with wrong and bad addresses in LA County. I don't have answers yet. We're continuing to work, but would love cooperation from everybody, because I'm sure each county probably has some concerns about bad addresses. Assessment appeals surveys. I again suggested this last year. The board is charged by statute to do assessment sampling surveys, but they seem to be out of date. Some of the process issues are not even included. For example, it might be helpful to know some of the key metrics, such as how long it takes to schedule an appeal, or how long it takes to issue a refund. None of those type process issues are looked at. I know they're looking at more assessment ratios when they do their surveys. And it is in the government code, so it would need a statute change, but that might be something we want to look at just to get if we don't have the metrics, we don't know how to solve the problem. So there's also something called a special topic survey. The last one that was done was in 2004, but there was actually a special topic survey done on assessment appeals in 1986, and that was the last one we've done. And we've come a long way with technology since 1986, so that might be something we want to look at. And finally, uniform appeal dates. In December 2024, the board voted unanimously to accept our recommendation to seek legislation for uniform appeal dates. As you know, we have 47 counties right now that have appeal dates of November 30th, and 11 counties have an appeal date of September 15th. However, tax bills are not issued until October, so many taxpayers miss the appeal dates in the 11 counties. My colleague, Greg Gibney, is probably in the AT&T queue, and he will be speaking to this recommendation. I don't know where he is in the queue, but we'll be able to give you some more background, because I know there are some assessors who are dead set against keeping the September 15th deadline. Implementing these recommendations would reassure taxpayers that their property taxes are being handled efficiently and effectively, and ensuring that the correct amount of money is going to our schools, and it would strengthen their trust in government. I appreciate your time and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gina Rodriguez with Ryan LLC. We appreciate your comments. You've got some great recommendations. I have some concern about electronic filing validation because we're experiencing problems with title theft, and a lot of that's done electronically.
Yeah.
So whatever's implemented, I want to make sure that there are safeguards in place, because with AI coming on, I think there's going to be a lot of techniques used to fool systems that nefarious people could create a lot of problems.
Yep.
So I imagine you're looking at that and making sure it's completely secure, because I support it. I think it's so much simpler to use a DocuSign, but.
We have, and we also work with, I used to work at Franchise Tax Board, and I'm quite familiar with their forms program, but there are computerized forms, and some counties don't accept computerized forms.
Sure.
And the FTB, for example, doesn't approve the program itself, but it approves the form. You have to go through a pretty stringent process of a forms approval at FTB.
Okay.
And they give each vendor a code, so we know if there's a problem with that form, we know who to go to.
Yes.
Whoever it might be. So there are systems in place already that we can look at our sister agencies for help.
Sure. As far as the taxpayer backlogs, I'm concerned about those, because while I think those counties are paying interest, I think they're required to do so by statute, aren't they?
That's right. They have to pay interest by statute.
It still creates cash flow problems. I mean, if you don't have the money, then, you've got bills to pay. So the faster we can get those resolved, and I'm really encouraged that you've reduced that backlog by 75%. I really want to recognize Tony for doing that in LA County. It's wonderful. Yeah, okay, we'll move on to other members. Tony Vasquez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question. I know we talked about this early on, and I had a conversation with my assessor, Jeff Frank, about the whole delay on the refunds.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, is it getting any better?
We're seeing some improvements for delayed refunds, but again, until we solve this problem with addresses, And for example, and we think we have some solutions, we just need to work through them, but some refunds go back, the refund has to go back to the payer.
Right.
And sometimes that's the escrow company. And the escrow company gets the refund and it just sits
It
on the
sits there.
refund. Gets stale, then we have to start all over. So we need to figure out whether it's something done on the appeals form itself to signal it needs to go to this address. The counties are very, very black and white on the law, but it has to go back to the payer. We get that. So how do we fix that? So I think the address issue is pretty significant with respect to the delayed refunds. In LA County in particular, the property tax rules need to get corrected before the property tax refund goes out. So if we can get those rule corrections done quickly, then the refunds can go out quicker.
I'm wondering if, when it has to go back to the payer, or the one that made the payment, which in most cases you said is the escrow company. I wonder if they can include the address of the owner as well. So at least they get notice. They may not get the payment back, but at least they get notice to follow up on it.
Again, we even have some property tax agents that will revise that appeals form to say, please send the refund to this address. But again, they're not bound by law, the tax collectors and the auditor controllers. So I think it needs to be a process change, certainly. I don't know that we need a law change on that one. So would love to work with all of you to figure out how to solve this. And it's not just counties. Again, like I said, it's every state agency has an issue.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, great.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for your comment. We appreciate you providing them. We will look over the comments and see if we have any questions and reach out to you. But I just wanted to bring up some important points. There are very important points that she made in this letter as well as last year's letter. So that's how we can bring about change. So as one comment, she mentioned as the agent authorization form that was brought up last year at the Bill of Rights hearing. And at that time, I had indicated that the executive director had agreed to meet with her and others regarding that form, interested in having that form, as well as the deputy director of the property tax department, and the executive director and deputy director met with her and as well as a few others on that form development and took the suggestions that into development. And many of her suggestions were incorporated into the form. That agent authorization form is anticipated to be presented to the board at an upcoming meeting this quarter. So again, I mentioned e-signatures, that a CAO will be issued in regard to that shortly. We do recognize the issue with addresses, so hope to, continue to work with her to figure that out. I know that's one of the conversations that's being made with her and the different Los Angeles County agencies as far as how to improve that. And then, of course, our agency does adopt the form as far as, or prescribe the form for appeals boards. So I'll be talking with the deputy director to see if some changes can be made to that in the future. So if unless there are any questions or comments, we can go to the next speaker.
I have a couple of questions. So is there currently anything in the law that would compel an escrow company or another entity to disgorge the funds that they've received and they're not forwarding, or require them to accept a check from the state?
Well, I think so, like she mentioned, so in the tax collector's office, they do have to issue refunds to the payee. So I think in the case of those, it's typically like when you have a sale. So maybe there's an appeal in process, and then in the meantime, well, before it's heard, the property is sold. So instead of the former property owner or the property owner at the time maybe paying it, then it's paid through escrow. It just happens to be a timing thing. And so when the refund goes to escrow, that's kind of out of the control of the tax collector as well. And, that is causing an issue because the escrow company gets it, sits on it. Maybe they don't know what it's to, what it's for, and then it gets stale dated. And then there's issues with that. So I don't know how widespread that is amongst the state. I mean, you do have escrow companies, but I would imagine smaller escrow companies might be able to manage a bit more than counties like Los Angeles that might have large volumes of, sales going through it. But it's,
And if it's a large problem, then why would the payments, like if the county officials issue a check and the check isn't cashed within 60 days, could it not just be escheated to the state controller's office for the responsible party to pick up later when their time allows?
well, I think it's from a county, so it's not really the state controller's office. So the refunds are issued at the local level. So I think there is a solution, so it sounds like, Gina's working with at least Los Angeles on this, but there has to be some sort of mechanism, so if there's an appeal that's in process, somehow it's known that that property maybe has been sold, so it needs to go, it wouldn't necessarily be issued to the escrow company, or if it was issued to the escrow company, there has to be some indicator of what it's going through, so some sort of communication. I don't know what that is, either. It's really a tax collector kind of thing, or even the auditor controllers, county auditor controllers, how they do that. So that maybe
Okay.
conversation has to be.
And I'd
had.
be interested in the future, like if there are just all these dead letters sitting everywhere that, as it's been portrayed to us,
Yeah.
and checks that maybe they go to an accounting firm that no longer has a relationship with the person, and it's a very complicated process.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there some way that can just go from the county accounts to be escheated to the state? And then, it's up to people to go look for their own money.
I think it should be kind of a simple process. I don't know what's transmitted from a tax collector to an escrow company, like when that refund is issued. But it would be fairly simple for the escrow company to pick up the phone and contact the tax collector's office, and then they should be able to trace it through. On that property, they handled that property. So I'm not sure what the disconnect is. So I'm hoping that, with Gina's conversations with the working group, they can have, that tax collector's office or auditor's office can have communications with the various escrow companies to figure out what the disconnect is. Because on a refund check, it would identify the parcel. So, it would be pretty straightforward for the escrow company to look up that parcel number, figure out who they transacted the business for, and know who the prior owner is. But it could be difficulty because the escrow company, I don't know who they represent, because we're not really involved with escrow companies, but they're kind of, whether they're representing buyer, seller, I don't know who. So it's just a little more legwork on the part of, say, the escrow company. If an escrow company, if the property's not sold, there shouldn't be as much of an address issue. So,
If I could just weigh in, because if if you've got a mortgage on the property, there's a mortgage company or a mortgage servicer that's managing escrow accounts. So if there's excess funds in an escrow account, they're refunded to the property owner.
the prior one or the current one?
Current.
Okay, well, in this case, should go to the prior owner, really, because the appeal would be that.
Oh, yeah.
The prior
If it's-
owner.
yeah,
I don't know if,
If the money would be for the prior owner through a sales transaction, you're talking about sales transaction? Okay, so wouldn't it go, even if it went to the escrow company, there's an obligation to return it to that owner, right? Wouldn't they have the address?
they would, they would have they would see the transaction, so they would have buyer, seller contacts. So I don't know, I don't know if, like Gina has been able to delve into the details with Los Angeles on what the problem is. I mean, I could ask her if she's willing to come up and share that, or maybe those are kind of conversations that she's going through now with the working group in Los Angeles to come to fruition. It sounded like that's something that she's her working group is embarking on now.
Could be a time
It
delay
is.
issue, though.
So it sounds like it is current.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
members. Thank you, Lisa. You
Thank
did an
you.
excellent job. Mr. Young would like to do some clarification on the escrow account, the impound account, because you were correct. If you're having your taxes paid, go ahead.
All right.
Go.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is David Young. I'm the Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. And just to address Vice Chair Lieber's direct question about what happens to a stale check that is sent to somebody and nobody collects it, nobody cashes it. The standard procedure, I believe, is that after a statutory deadline, that property is turned over to the state controller, if I'm not mistaken, and there is a Department of Unclaimed Property. It is escheated to the state, and then the state notifies you to come and say, I have X amount of dollars in this account, and you go in and you go through their process, prove your identity, and you get to basically you can retrieve that money. But that is, I recognize that process. I don't know what the statutory timeline is. It's possibly quite long. So for it to go through when somebody issues a refund, it goes to the wrong person, it sits before it gets turned over. The issuer of that check will see it's not been cashed. They're required by law to turn it over. And I don't know what that time is. It may be a significant amount of time. It may be several years. So it does add credence to how the refund process can get held up. It just goes into a black hole until somebody figures out it hasn't been cashed, then it gets turned over to the state. It gets cheated to the state. So that's my contribution.
Good. Okay.
And as the conversation about that goes on,
Yeah.
I'd love to know about non-LA examples, because I know that there was a huge dysfunction in LA, which has now been cleared up and seems to be processing contemporaneously. But I'd like to know about non-LA examples if we have any.
Of course. LA is very uniquely situated. As you well know, they represent a quarter of the population, they have a quarter of the budget, and they have a quarter of the assessments. So we look at their leadership in solving some of this. Hopefully we can ride their coattails a little
Thank
bit on
you.
that. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? Okay, Member Vasquez. Oh,
Well, it sounds like, well, I know there's more discussions. I need to sit back, and I know I had some conversations with my assessor, Jeff Prang, about this, and he was, I know at the association, he was going to share it with some of the other smaller counties to see if, in fact, what they're doing could be of use or helpful to some of the others. And I don't know if that took place yet.
okay. Very good. Thank you. Member Schaefer.
Yes, Ms. Thompson, we had a
Is that mic on?
We had a written comment from a taxpayer concerned about,
We haven't quite gone to the written comments yet. Would you like
Oh,
to
you
wait?
haven't?
Yeah, we're almost there, though.
okay,
Well,
thank you.
after the phone
I'll
lines.
be patient.
And we have
Okay, thank you.
a taxpayer in the room.
Yeah,
So
so-
that's next?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the next
okay.
speaker that we have is Mr. Brett Nilsson, and he's in the audience.
Great. How are you, Mr. Nelson?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Brett Nelson. I've lived in Solano County for 26 years, specifically in the city of Benicia, which, as you're aware, is capital of California in 1853. I'm a 63-year-old Navy veteran. I served as a medical officer on the USS Orion during the Persian Gulf War, and for decades after that, I've worked as an emergency physician in Vallejo, as you know, is one of the bankrupt cities in California. treated countless patients without insurance, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, I was on the front lines when people came in gasping for breath. My wife is a pediatrician, served in Vallejo as well, and is healing thousands of young lives in her career. I'm currently on a Citizens Oversight Commission in Benicia. In 2001, my family and I bought our home in Benicia, where we raised our son, who moved out around 2019. After he moved out, we downsized from a 4-bedroom home to a smaller home across the same town. Because the replacement home was more expensive, we did not qualify for Proposition 60 tax-based transfer. And then two years later, Proposition 19 was passed, which, as you're aware, finally allowed seniors over 55 to transfer their base value, even if the new home costs slightly more. Unfortunately, we had already sold the home and missed this window of fairness by timing. After months of correspondence with both the Solano County Assessor and the Board of Equalization, my appeals were denied. I did get a very thoughtful and detailed letter from Margie Wing here at the Board of Equalization. And she actually requested that I come here and present my case. I written last week to my elected representatives, Lori Wilson and Christopher Capildon as well, but I come here today just to emphasize this. The intent of Proposition 19 was to allow seniors to downsize without being forced out of their communities by rising property taxes. In my case, our annual property tax doubled from $9,000 to $18,000, even though we remained in the same city and simply downsized. I'm not asking to avoid taxes altogether, only to keep a similar property tax base that we already had, consistent with the spirit of Proposition 19. I respectfully ask for relief so that retirees like myself who have served our country and community can remain in California without being burdened beyond reason on a fixed income. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dr. Nelson. We appreciate your service to our nation too. Is there something that we can do? I'm looking at our executive director in terms of what was just described. Dr. Nelson's case.
We can comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like Lisa
Yeah.
is already working with you.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, so Margie Wing works for me in the TRA office. And so our office has worked with him recently, and we were forwarded his comments actually from the property tax department. He wrote a letter at the end of July. So when he contacted us, or contacted the property tax department, we looked at his situation, and unfortunately, he was not able to qualify for Proposition 19 because he purchased and sold his property prior to the effective date of Proposition 19's base or value transfer provisions. So he wasn't able to qualify. We looked into the circumstances of his purchase and sale, and he wasn't eligible. He indicated he downsized. Unfortunately, just to the market conditions, the replacement was of higher market value, so that deems ineligible under prior base or value transfer law. So we basically explained to him that to enable him to qualify for current law, that would require a change in the constitutional provisions because the dates were simply before the effective date of the base or value transfers provisions of Proposition 19, and that was effective April 1st, 2021. So, so yeah, that really would be the only way to enable him to qualify for that particular transaction is if the amendment was made to the Constitution to make an earlier date. So we weren't able to find any way that he could qualify for a base or value transfer under any other law. So.
Okay. So it's a matter of statute.
Yeah, it's a matter of that and the Constitution. So before Proposition 19's base or value transfer provisions, a person could only qualify for a base or value transfer if the replacement property's market value was of equal or lesser value than the original property that was sold. And in his case, he purchased a higher market value of replacement. So he was within the same county, so That wasn't an issue. As you know, for prior base year value transfer laws, you couldn't make a transfer anywhere in the state. It was only within the same county or with the 10 or 11 counties that have base year value transfers accepted by ordinance from other counties. So,
Can you go into that a little bit more in terms of inter-county? So if you own a home within the same county, you have a home in the county, and you move to another home in the county, how does that work in terms of base year value?
so for current law or prior, so for
Prior
law.
prior
so
to Prop 19.
Prior law, it's still, it could be done, but the replacement properties market value had to be the same or less value than the market of the original. So you couldn't go up like you can now. So with Proposition 19's base year value transfer, you can buy a house that is of higher market value. You just pay the difference between the market value of the original and the replacement on top of your transfer
see.
base
Okay.
year value.
Okay.
But before, you just didn't qualify. That was an absolute. So Proposition 19's base year value transfers are more generous, better, I guess, because you can take it anywhere in the state and you can go up. You just have to pay the difference in market value. So, so that's kind of
Okay.
the only option is if a constitutional amendment was made, and I don't think you ever see it really that you can backdate it, because I mean, Proposition 19 changed it as a point in time. I don't know how that would work with a constitutional amendment
Yeah.
backdating it, so.
Yeah, so Dr. Nelson, do you understand that it would have to actually be a change to the California state constitution to do so, which is so difficult to make changes to? I mean, it happens occasionally with like an initiative or two-thirds votes of both the Assembly and the Senate to change the constitution. So I don't know, and if it's related to, is it related to a proposition, Lisa, or is this?
Well, they would,
County.
like a proposition would have to be, come forward to
Okay.
change a constitutional
Okay.
amendment, I believe.
So unfortunately,
That's one way of doing it.
we don't have a solution
Yeah.
for your problem. The only thing I could add is that we've got a lot of folks moving up from your area to the Sacramento area, Placer, El Dorado counties, and you can buy, values are about half. So that would be a means of reducing your tax obligation, but it would involve a bigger move. So.
I don't want to live in Sacramento.
Yes, okay, and I hear you, I understand. I'm sorry, I just don't know I can't think of a solution here. Yes.
I think that this
Member
is
Lieber.
the difficulty of the propositions that are constitutional amendments, and as opposed to a statutory initiative, is that when they're a constitutional amendment, that would have to go back out to a vote of the people and a two-thirds vote of the legislature to put it on the ballot. So it's a hard one at this point. There could be some change coming that we don't know about, because we do have each constituents who are stuck in a base year transfer issue. But it doesn't look good for the prospect of doing it. So, but I'll ask Doug Winslow, my chief deputy, to give you his card, and if we hear anything coming down the road, we could let you know about it, because Solano is one of our counties, so we'll at least keep in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it forward. And I'm sorry we can't help. Okay, all right, so
So we have.
where are we? Ms. Thompson?
So we have next speaker, Jesse Lee from the California Taxpayers Association.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Gaines and honorable members of the board. First, I want to apologize for any inconvenience my late addition to make public comment made to the board and for the staff, and also express my gratitude for the opportunity to provide public comment and for the board for convening the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights hearing. The California Taxpayers Association appreciates the board's ongoing commitment to transparency, due process, and practical solutions that help taxpayers understand and meet their obligations. We also are very appreciative of the board's assessment practices surveys, which help ensure fair and consistent assessment of property throughout the state. Today, I'm here briefly to express our thanks for this forum and to note that we will be submitting detailed written comments for the record. Our written testimony will include specific recommendations to improve guidance, streamline communication with taxpayers and representatives, and reduce avoidable compliance costs. We look forward to continued collaboration with the board and with the staff. Thank you for your time and for your service.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments on behalf of the California Taxpayers Association and for your continued promotion of our TRA Bill of Rights hearing. At this point, we do not have any more speakers in the audience, so we can go to the phone line if that's.
Yep. If I could, just for clarification, because we were going to take a break. So what's your recommendation? Should we go to AT&T and see if there's other taxpayers, or? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I thought I should ask the question, though. So, okay, very good. Thank you. Proceed.
Okay,
So,
phone lines?
yeah, so AT&T moderator, will you please let us know if there's anybody on the line that would like to comment on this item?
There are no comments at this time from the phone lines.
Okay, great. Thank you, moderator.
Moderator, can you ask to see if anyone wants to make a comment, please?
We were supposed to have some folks, right? Okay.
AT&T moderator, can you go out? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If you would like to make a comment, please press 10 at this time. For any public comments, please press 1, then 0. One moment, please. You do have a question. One moment, please.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Line 14, your line is open.
Hi there, thank you. My name is Greg Gibney, and I'm a San Diego County resident and homeowner. My career is actually in the field of property taxes, and I'm a principal at Ryan LLC, a company that represents thousands of taxpayers within California. My colleague Gina Rodriguez spoke in person earlier today and pointed out in her comments that we currently have 2 different assessment appeal deadlines in the state of California, depending on which county your property is located in. She had mentioned that 47 counties have an assessment appeal deadline of November 30th, while 11 counties have a much earlier assessment appeal deadline of September 15th. As Gina alluded to, this non-uniformity leads to confusion amongst taxpayers, especially those taxpayers who may have moved from one county with a November 30th deadline to another county that happens to have a September 15th deadline. In California's property tax system, we currently have uniform deadlines for other parts of the property tax system. One of the reasons for this is because it alleviates confusion amongst taxpayers. Business personal property tax returns, for example, Form 571, are all due in every county by May 7th of each year. Unsecured property tax bills are due in every county by August 31st of each year. Secured property tax bills, the first installment is due in every county by December 10th, and the second installment is due in every county by April 10th. Uniformity amongst counties helps alleviate confusion amongst California taxpayers, something that I believe we should all strive for. Based on this, I would strongly recommend having all counties recognize one uniform assessment appeal deadline, which I believe should be November 30th. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you very much, Greg. Members, any comments? Okay.
Yeah, so we do recognize that it may be confusing to taxpayers to have two different deadlines. We do know that the statutory, so that election can be done by an assessor depending on whether certain notices are issued. So any change to that would require a statutory deadline to, if it was to be consistent statewide without the option of two different ones, so.
We need a law to make that consistent, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically it would be mandating each assessor's office to have one deadline as
We
opposed
don't
to
have
now
that
one.
authority? Is that
I
right?
don't know the statutory provision off the top of my head, but it's one or the other. So either it's dependent. So if an assessor's office issued a certain notice, that deadline is different. So I don't know if Dave wants to mention it or not, but David knows the deadlines apparently. Do you know the deadlines? The code? If he doesn't know the codes, I can look
Yeah,
it
that'd
up
be-
and find out too for you later. But
Because that was a great point, brought up in terms of the inconsistency with appeal dates, right? And then there was also a metrics issue in terms of are we asking the right questions in our surveys? So,
Good morning again. Chairman Gaines, honorable members of the board. Once again, my name is David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. You asked about the deadlines for filing an assessment appeal. Right now, the current statute is that it provides for two deadlines. One is in September if you mail out certain notices.
Okay.
If you mail out that notice, it's to serve as a, hey, this is gonna be your tax bill, and it fulfills a certain requirement, then you get an earlier deadline. The other one is November 30th, at the end of November. If you do not mail that notice out and you use the actual tax bill as your notice of your assessed value, then it's a later date. Right now, all 58 counties can choose to do one or the other.
can they do both?
They cannot do both.
Okay.
47 has chosen not to use that notice, but instead to use the tax bill, and thus they have the later deadline. The remaining 11, they chose to actually use and mail out that notice of assessment. So they have an earlier deadline. So all 58 counties can elect to do so. 11 has elected not to. For it to be compelled to have one consistent deadline, it would require a statutory change to law and to make it all one date.
Yes. And if I'm a taxpayer, I would just soon pay it later,
It
right?
doesn't,
So you don't have.
it doesn't change when you have to pay.
Okay.
It just changes when
When you're noticed?
Yeah, when you have to file your assessment appeal in order to be a valid appeal.
Okay.
So that's all it changes.
Okay.
Your payment and everything else stays the same.
All right, very well. So it sounds like the solution is a legislative one.
If we want to make it consistent and not give the assessors, the counties, the choice as to which deadline to choose.
Okay,
That is correct.
very good. Thank you. Other questions, please? Okay, good. Thank you.
Good morning, Ted Angelo, Legislative Director. I just wanted to chime in that we did, and the board did support a uniform deadline, and it didn't move forward. It was going to go in a committee bill, but there was opposition from some of the counties. So this is still a contentious issue and doesn't have uniform support from all the counties.
Okay.
If there was to be a change, it would probably have to go in, have an author carry the bill, and there would be support and opposition from those that support and oppose it. So it was supported by the board.
Yeah.
It was going to go into a committee bill, and because it was controversial, it was removed from that, and we decided to wait to address it at another time.
How about the California Assessors Association? Where did they weigh in? Were they supportive?
Yvette Starr, Executive Director. The 11 county assessors who have the different date, they all oppose strongly.
Okay,
We met, and they discussed their process, and to go with the later date was gonna change their budgets. It was gonna really result in a backlog of appeals, and they strongly oppose.
okay, all right. And it sounds like, did they ever, I guess they never came to terms in the association itself on the issue?
The association did not take a position.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And I
very well.
asked them when we had our
Yes,
meeting.
okay.
Is CAA in support or against?
All right.
And those 11 said they all are against.
Okay, all right, very well. Thanks for the clarity.
Just
Yes.
one more comment.
Vice Chair Weber.
I guess going forward, so not today, I'd like to know what the proponents, Ryan or others who are proponents, are, what's their legislative plan to do it? Because I think we have a hard time when 11 counties are hard opposed. And I don't think from our standpoint, we could fight it out hard in the legislature. But because this is something that we hear about time after time after time after time, I'd love to know on an informal basis, what is Ryan going to do about it? And what's the plan? Don't need to hear today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other comments?
I just have one comment too. I assume that these deadlines have been in place for decades and decades. So to kind of make this change now is kind of like a Herculean effort. So looking forward to what Ryan is going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Controller. Okay,
Okay, so we have 3 written comments. The first one we'll have Amy read, which is Steve Cisneros.
wonderful, thank you.
Good morning. The first public comment that I am reading is from Steve Cisneros. He states, "I believe there should be a property tax discount for those over age of 65 and for military retirees. The discount should be at least 25%, if not more." That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
Yeah, so we appreciate that comment. As to the rate, the property tax rate is set by the California Constitution, specifically Article 13, Section 1. So for real property, the property tax rate is 1% plus local approved bonded indebtedness. And the county assessor's office basically determines the property's assessed value, and that is multiplied by the 1% tax rate to have that property tax component plus that percent for voter approved indebtedness. So to have a discount for any person of a particular age or military status would require a constitutional amendment. Currently, there is a disabled veterans exemption available for principal residents. That's substantially more than the homeowner's exemption. So our office does have an information sheet on the disabled veterans exemption, as well as on property tax assistance programs to seniors. So we will reach out to this taxpayer to provide that information. We're not sure if he is disabled or not, but we'll at least let him know about the availability of that for savings.
There have been, just to clarify, when we served in the legislature, there were numerous attempts to increase that homeowner's exemption for veterans. Doesn't answer the senior question, but, I carried a bill myself. I was unsuccessful. So, yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I hope that Mr. Cisneros is possibly listening. One of the things that I found out at the last Assessors Association conference was that Marin County on the tax bill prints the contact phone number for each of the add-ons to the property taxes. So the voter initiatives for the different school increments and et cetera. Many of them do have an opt-out for seniors, but if a contact is not printed on your tax bill, then it's harder to access that. But I
So
would,
on a per county basis, is that what you're saying?
Well, Marin just prints it on their tax bill. So
Okay.
if there's an add-on for a particular school district, the contact phone number is there.
Okay.
So that the taxpayer can call that entity and say, is there a senior exemption to
Oh,
this
good.
add-on?
Okay. All right.
So I hope that other counties will pick that up because I
Sure.
think that's very, very helpful. And that can be a good amount of money
Mm-hmm.
that seniors may be exempt from if they request the exemption. And many people don't want to go through that legwork or don't know.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, mostly what we've seen is on the tax bills under the special assessment portion anyway. There are, like for school bonds that are special assessments and tax, special taxes that are for schools, then you can apply for them if if you're 65 and over. There's a couple other reasons, but the phone number is in there. So if you call, you can ask if there's an exemption available. Sometimes there's information on the district website as well. Yolo County, for example, does have information on their school district website about how to apply for the exemptions. So,
Ms. Thompson?
yes.
Member Schaefer, yes.
Yes, you assured us that there's nothing in the tax law that gives any benefit because of age. That's the general proposition that would require a constitutional amendment to change that. But you also mentioned property tax benefits for seniors. What could we be talking about there?
Well, so as far as like the information sheet that we have on property tax assistance programs for seniors, that information sheet talks about several things, but it talks about the availability of payment plans for seniors. It also references property tax assistance program from the state controller's office. It talks about the availability of different types of exemptions. So that's kind of what that talks about.
Do you have any awareness of what seniors' plight is in other states? Has Arizona or Oregon or any of the states that out here in the West, have they done something for seniors that we're unable to without a constitutional amendment?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with any other states.
I wondered if you run across any practices of other jurisdictions outside of California.
Yeah, I have not. Yeah, I just know of California law.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. So if we can go to the next
Yes,
public
please.
comment. So the next one is from Kim Flores, and Ms. Hendrickson will read that.
Yes, the next written public comment is from Kim Flores. The comment states, please consider decreasing property tax due to the business and home always being burglarized and robbed on a daily basis multiple times despite police incident reports filed in which detectives discovered corrupt law enforcement personnel and racist neighbors as the suspects, but are unable to enforce restraining orders. Alcoholic beverage tax should be increased as a deterrence method because it damages the liver and kidneys. Also, it is okay for anyone to lose a life in the hands of under the influence drivers. That concludes this public comment, so Ms. Thompson can remark.
So we do appreciate her comments, and we're certainly sorry for the situation that she describes as far as the problems in her neighborhood. Generally, if the market conditions of a neighborhood would reflect that, and those would be taken into account by an assessor's office in assessing property. So every year, in accordance with property tax law, the assessor is supposed to assess property at the lower of factored base year value or market value. If that particular property's market value declined lower than its factored base year value, then you would see a lesser value, say, of a property that's similar in a more desirable neighborhood. So that is something that's reflected already in assessor's practice and in law. So we can make sure to reach out to Mrs. Flores to let her know that she's aware she can request a decline in value review to the county assessor's office if she thinks the market value of her property is less than her assessed value, as well as of formal appeals rights through the Assessment Appeals Board to formally dispute that value. As to concerns about the alcoholic beverage tax and the belief it should be raised, the alcoholic beverage tax rate is specified in statute, so there are different rates depending on the type of alcohol and whether it's beer or wine or distilled spirits. So to increase that alcoholic beverage tax rate would require a statutory amendment to the distributors, manufacturers, and importers of that tax. So unless there is any questions or comments, we can go to the next one. Yes, Mr. Schaefer.
Ms. Thompson, I've been in the public arena 60 years, starting as a prosecuting attorney, and I know when I started out, DUI was quite a bit more lenient than it is today. If your blood alcohol reading was between 0.5 and 15, you may or may not be under the influence, depending on how you did with the test. Today, as we know, it's 0.08 and above, you are presumed under the influence. I've seen that get tougher and tougher as society gets more and more aware. I've also seen tobacco taxes raised substantially over the last decades. As a matter of public policy, we want to discourage the use of tobacco, and we want to discourage it especially among underage. But we're in the business of taxing alcoholic beverages. Over the last 10, 20, 30 years, what has been the record on our tax rate on alcoholic beverages? Has it gotten higher and higher as a public deterrent, or like tobacco, like DUI prosecution, or has it remained status quo? I'm not really aware, and I thought you might be.
Well, we collect that alcoholic beverage tax by statute. I mean, so you can address. Okay.
Got Laurel Williams here.
Hello, I'm Laurel Williams, the Special Taxes Advisor for the Executive Office. So to follow up with your question, Mr. Schaefer, the alcoholic beverage tax has remained the same mostly since the 90s. For various reasons, and one of the main differences between the alcoholic beverage tax and the cigarette and tobacco taxes, I used to work in that realm, is that there's also where those go, where the funds go. For instance, with cigarette and tobacco, there's some that are of the taxes specifically earmarked and voted in by the voters for things like First Five California and breast cancer and various different entities that the voters have chosen to vote in, whereas the alcoholic beverage tax so far has been mostly adjusted at the legislative level. So
you're saying that the increase in tobacco taxes we've seen over the years has been a voter motivated?
Yeah.
And you're saying the increase or lack of increase on liquor taxes has been a legislative driven?
Correct. Does that?
Just a question of clarification. I read that alcohol consumption's at like its lowest level in half a century.
Yes, there is, and I have more in my report later
Yes.
About the consumption is changing, and there's more and more, as Mr. Schaefer pointed out, there's more evidence of health impacts to alcohol consumption, and there's different markets within the alcoholic beverage industry that have changed quite a bit in the last few years.
Thank you.
Yep, welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have one more public comment. That is from Tanya Barnes.
The next written public comment is from Ms. Tanya Barnes. The comment states, "My name is Tanya Barnes, and I am the trustee of the Agnes H. Barnes Revocable Trust. In lieu of public testimony, I am submitting this written statement and accompanying 12-page personal report for the record. Due to work obligations, I am unable to attend in person. Still, I could not let this moment pass. It is especially significant as it falls just one day after the 5-year commemoration of my mother's passing on August 19th, 2020. I speak today not only as a trustee managing the legacy of my mother's estate, but as a frontline worker at the California DMV, an agency people love to joke about. But here's the truth. We help millions of Californians every year secure what they need to move forward in life, the ability to drive, to work, to establish their identity, to access benefits, and to have a legal presence in this state. We serve people across language barriers, ethnicities, disabilities, and life stages. We don't hide behind layers of bureaucracy. We show up face to face every day, and that's what public service is supposed to look like. And all I ever asked was for the Los Angeles County to show up for me and my family in the same way. Instead, I spent 1,538 days, more than 4 years, fighting to recover a refund of $5,253.50. This was a property tax payment assessed in error, which I paid under protest just to close escrow. The parent-child exclusion was approved, the assessment was reversed, and the refund was acknowledged, yet the check was not issued until just a few days ago in mid-August of 2025. During that time, I faced public servants and elected officials who passed the buck, shifted the blame, and pointed fingers, but never took accountability. The Los Angeles County Assessor's Office, the Treasurer, Tax Collector, and the Auditor Controller, Stewart Title, and even several elected representatives' offices passed the issue around like a hot potato. No one took ownership. No one followed through. And most devastatingly of all, no one ever tried to fix the problem. So I reached out to the office of the Los Angeles County Supervisor, Lindsay Horvath, and received the only an autoresponder, but no follow-up from an actual human being. It wasn't until I mentioned I would testify publicly at that point of contact was assigned to someone, and someone was sent to make a few phone calls. That response came far too late to be meaningful, and it shouldn't take the threat of public testimony to trigger basic constituent service. I also contacted State Controller Malia Cohen's office through her website's portal, seeking help for what had clearly become a complete breakdown of financial accountability at the local level. As a fellow state employee, it was especially disheartening not to receive a response, especially when her name and seal and the seal of her office are on my paychecks. I say that with genuine respect and with the hope that hearing my story today helps close the gap between taxpayers and the institutions meant to serve them. It started with a technical mistake, an incorrect property tax assessment that should have been quickly resolved. The parent-child exclusion was approved, the assessment was reversed, the county acknowledged a refund was due. But instead of being corrected promptly, my effort to recover that refund became a years-long ordeal. What began as a clerical error ultimately became a systematic failure that caused real harm. The estate incurred thousands in legal fees because I was dragged into litigation by beneficiaries who wrongly believed that I had mismanaged the estate. That false narrative was born in part from the county's inaction, and defending myself took a deep emotional toll. But I couldn't give up, because it wasn't just about the money. It was about honoring my mother's final wishes and fulfilling my duty as trustee with integrity. While my written report meticulously documents every failure point of this system, my journey has moved me beyond focusing on what went wrong to advocating for what can be done right. It's not about blame, it's about building a better system. The solutions I'm proposing are not abstract. They are clear, practical, and immediately actionable. I respectfully refer to the full report for the detailed analysis and supporting data. But in a nutshell, I am suggesting the board consider a unified refund tracking system so taxpayers aren't forced to chase different departments for answers, and both staff and public can see the real-time status of a refund. A dedicated refund ombudsman, a single point of contact whose job is to prevent cases like mine from falling through the cracks, to ensure families have an advocate when problems arise. Enforce refund timelines, because without clear deadlines, acknowledged refunds can sit for years. Families deserve certainty, not indefinite delay. Cross-departmental data integration. So assessor, tax collector, auditor, and title offices aren't passing taxpayers around like a hot potato. The information should move, not the person. These suggestions are the bare minimum a functioning, modern public system should offer. My quest for refund has been exhausting, but I hope that by telling my story, I can spare others from enduring the same fate. Finally, I want to thank the people who stood with me when others would not. Solon Ronark and the offices of the Assembly member Jesse Gabriel, Amy Hendrickson and Lisa Thompson from the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office, and Lacey Basinger from the State Controller, Local Government Programs and Services Division. Their support was more than helpful. It was healing. They reminded me that public service can still mean something. Thank you for allowing my voice and my mother's legacy to be heard today. That concludes this comment. Ms. Thompson can
Wonderful.
respond.
Okay, any comments? We start with Member Vasquez.
Well, I'd like to thank, hopefully she's listening, Ms. Barnes for her testimony here, or at least her written comments here. And this is something that's been one of the core issues when we started our work group. I was looking back, I guess it's been over a year now. And we're gonna look at this again coming up in our hearing on September 17th. And this ombudsman, I think it might be a real good suggestion to look at and to explore and see if that's a possibility, throughout the counties as I look at this. The power, I guess, as I'm listening to her frustration, trying to get this reimbursement piece, and I know the Ryan Group and several other folks, when we started this whole work group, I couldn't believe how backed up they were. But then, my assessor, Jeff Prang, admitted, he says, they were just overwhelmed. And they're looking at ways, especially LA County being so huge, the bureaucracy. So I could see where things could get sometimes delayed or caught up, or in some cases, I think somebody testified earlier, just sits on a desk because they don't have an address or they don't know where to send it to. But we need to figure out a way, and maybe this ombudsman might be, I think could help in moving forward. So I'm looking forward to our hearing coming up on September 17th to begin to address this issue, and hopefully we can come up with a better method to expedite this.
Great. Vice Chair Lieber.
I'll take a bite at this as well. And Ms. Barnes, if you're listening, I very much appreciate you being a DMV worker. I've had the chance to go to the DMV to get some business done recently, and our DMV is currently working at such a high level and has been really revolutionized over time and is putting out exceptional service under enormous pressure of the numbers of people coming through. So thank you for bearing up to that. And I'm going to be thinking about ways to get people who have had to spend so much time at the county level and going to legislative offices and going to county supervisors and et cetera, to make one of their first stops the Taxpayer Rights Advocate's Office here at the BOE, because they are the ombudsperson right now currently that can help people to straighten out the issues that they have at the county level. And from my visibility into it, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate does get the attention of the county offices and can help to resolve that dysfunction where everybody's pointing fingers in a circle. So I know that as board members, we can think about how to reach out to each of our counties to get the information out there about the resources that we have here. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. Member Schaefer?
Thank you, and I hope Ms. Barnes is listening. We have to have a statewide ombudsman that will look after problems with either judiciary or legislative or executive branches. I have seen gross stories like this repeated themselves. I've run into a couple I've had myself, and I've discussed them with Malia Cohen, our comptroller, and she agrees with me wholeheartedly that there's a lot of inefficiencies in how government works. When I got to be 5 years an employee of the state in January of 2024, I was eligible to apply for retirement from my paycheck at some future point, and I immediately applied. And I can testify that I've been almost monthly in touch with various state offices dealing with CalPERS, and it was only after about 1.5 years, would you believe? It should have been after about 1.5 months. It was just this last month I was able to find out what the terms are as to buyback and who you pay it to and how much it is. And it took me from January 2024 till August, June, July, August of this year to get a simple answer. I can see how the problems that you've had with other branches. I once had a problem I wanted to talk to DMV about, and I wrote them 6 letters. I sent them emails. I tried to call them, and they think any human being trying to reach them is got a question about their driver's license and or their license plate. That wasn't me. I'm a policy person, and I was concerned with how they deal with the handicapped placards. I had seen chiropractors running free advertisements and throwaway newspapers offering to give you a handicap placard if you qualify, and I'm sure it was very easy to qualify. And I insisted DMV tell me, what, do they audit every 10th one of these, or every 5th, or every 100th? And I could never get any response from them. Fortunately, the chiropractor that was putting out all these discounted placards was investigated and put out of business. But we have policy issues we want to raise with state agencies, and they're just not used to getting inquiries from people about a policy issue. And you have a great policy issue here about why it takes forever to get a check issued. And so I'm not happy with, I have another problem with the courts. If I want to file a civil dispute in the court here in Sacramento as a public official, there's a statute that says it's exempt, and they do it without a charge, and they're very efficient about it. If I want to file one in San Diego as a public official, all on a public issue, they charge me retail. They've charged me $225 to file, and 5 different motions I filed at $60 a piece just to ask them about the applicability of the exemption for a public issue case filed by a public official. And they ignore me. And, you know, I've been last appearing before the California Judicial Council to explain it to them. it's just a hot potato that public officials pass from one to the other and you never get an answer. That's why I think the idea of having an ombudsman that anybody with either a judicial, legislative, or executive question could make a written pitch to. I've written to my public legislators, like we all have, our assemblymen and our senators and our congressmen, and by and large, I'm ignored by them too. I don't know what the problem is. When I was a city councilman, I had half of a staff member. City councilmen today in San Diego have 8 or 9 staff members apiece. Yet it's not very quick to get an answer from them. You know, it'll be months or more often than not, no answer at all. So I'm so glad to hear from Ms. Barnes that she's had the royal runaround. And I think the more of us who can talk about it at this level, I can't wait to have more discussion on getting us an ombudsman that will serve all of California. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Member Schaefer. Yeah, I just want to apologize to Ms. Barnes and everything she's been through. It's inexcusable. And I know there's been challenges in LA County, and I appreciate the assessor because he's getting on top of it. That backlog has been reduced by 75%, like we said earlier. But that's what BOE members are for. If a constituent has a problem, we try to encourage them, please give us a call. And I know we're out in our districts, we're telling our constituents that really, I tell them, if you have any problem with government, call our office and we'll, whether it's federal, local, or state, we'll figure out the right person you need to talk to. And we're grateful for Ms. Thompson and what she does. And in this particular case, she was on the ball, and we appreciate that. But it should have, the ombudsman, I think, is the answer. Someone local in that county that can represent the constituent. So.
Yeah, our office had worked with her recently. Unfortunately, we didn't get involved. She didn't approach us until much later. She would have been aware of us. So we could have helped earlier.
Sure.
But, we did coordinate with the assessor's office, and they confirmed that they had processed the parent-child exclusion and transmitted that roll correction to the auditor's office. Actually, it was done fairly quickly after the parent-child exclusion form was filed. Unfortunately, there were delays on the tax collector and on their office on issuing the refund, which wasn't issued until a very much later date. Typically, refunds aren't handled at the tax collector level. They're actually handled at the auditor level. But in this case, due to timing, it was just that the escrow company, because the property was being sold, the escrow company actually paid the taxes, and when it was received by the tax collector, the assessment had already been canceled, so there was no tax bill any longer. So that was on the tax collector's end. But we are sympathetic to what happened to Ms. Barnes and her situation. The manager that I spoke with at the tax collector's office was sorry and acknowledged that follow-up should have been made with the escrow company. We are happy that we are able to assist her and that she was finally, at least the escrow company was issued the refund as the payee, and then that the escrow company had distributed the funds to that trust so she can have closure on her end. So since the comments are public, we will be forwarding this to the contact that I made at the tax collector's office so they can see the effect that it really had. So.
Yes, thank you. It reminds me of a constituent issue I had in my district where I had a constituent in Reading, and she got a fine for 80 violations going across the Bay Bridge.
Wow.
And the camera was reading the license plate incorrectly, and it was mixed up between her and another driver.
Oh, no.
And so we were able to get it resolved, but she had thousands of dollars in fines due, and it was just a glitch in technology, not reading the license plate correctly. So, all right, well, thank you so much. Anything else that we have?
We don't have any more written comments. I just would like to thank my staff for all their hard work during the year in helping taxpayers, and then all of you board members for forwarding taxpayers to us and letting them know about our availability.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great presentation. We appreciate it. and comments. Yes.
Your dad, there's no more testimony
No.
at this point. Yeah, my only question is, as I was listening to the reports, especially some of the testimony, and I think the vice chair brought it up on the exemption piece for seniors. And I know in Santa Monica, we do a pretty good job of letting people know, because we have several parcel taxes and property and construction taxes on schools, because we have our own school system, our own college district, and of course, our city. And a lot of folks, if they're seniors, they could exempt out. But I don't know if statewide, if there's something we could do, and I don't know if it's in the form of an LTA or something that we can get out to the assessors to let folks know that that's a possibility and available, because not, depending on how they pass these construction bonds, some of them, they write in there that there's an exemption, sometimes they don't. So those, they do. Many folks, like you said, taxpayers are paying it, seniors not knowing that they could opt out.
Yeah, the requirement actually, so I believe it's statutory, it's on the tax collector side, so, but there has to be a phone number listed next to every special assessment charge on the bill. And usually there's an insert in the tax bill that might talk about special exemptions, or sometimes there's actually an asterisk that's put on, the actual bill next to the phone number to indicate that there's an exemption available. So there, there is kind of, I don't really call it outreach on that behalf, but the information is indicated on the tax bill. And so if a taxpayer is supposed to call, they would call that, special district, because the special district would be the one that, adopted that bill or had that. So the tax collector's office wouldn't have that information, nor would the county auditor's office, so, but yeah.
I just think that's,
I almost think that, maybe since your office has done a great job, Lisa, and as I'm listening to some of the praise that we're getting from some of these folks that are testifying, I was wondering if there was some kind of a campaign we could do at our end, just to get the word out every year to let folks know that they should do it, within their respective counties, all the 58 county assessors notifying their taxpayers. Because, many of these change, from year to year. Some of these construction bonds, will sunset after it's completed. But in some cases, like we have a parcel tax in Santa Monica that has no sunset. It's for life. But if you're a senior, you could opt out. But if they don't know about it, they could be paying this thing the rest of their life.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We do so on our information sheet for property tax assistance programs for seniors. That is one of the components. We identify that there is that availability from the special tax. We will reach out to the Assessors Association, although they are aware of that. We'll just remind them of that maybe at the next update, at the next conference, that information sheet includes that component, so.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
that's wonderful. I just wanted to follow up on that through our executive director. Is that just following up on Mr. Vasquez's question in terms of a letter to assessors? Is that something that we could do?
It seems to me that the assessors wouldn't be the proper audience for it because it's going to be on their tax bill. So it's the treasurers and the collectors, not assessors.
Okay. Is there a way to
I believe Ms. Thompson hit a good point. We could remind the assessors and the CAA about our fact sheet, the information sheet, and we will be seeing them soon.
Very
It could be a topic with our annual meeting with the assessors.
Okay, great. And then maybe we could work with Peter as members of the board to
Put something out. Because I know,
publicity standpoint, get it out.
As we sit and attend these assessor conferences, some of them have like 3 or 4 different roles, right? And you're right, in some cases, like my assessor he's just the assessor. But in looking, at least when we were up in Tahoe recently, some of these smaller counties, they're wearing 4 different hats. So they probably have more of a hands-on to get that information out. But you're right, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't fall on some of the assessors' responsibility.
Not the assessors, it's the auditor controller, state controller's office.
But you're right, we can do it
But
maybe.
we have a very nice fact sheet that Ms. Thompson, Mr. Peter did And you guys, we will send you another package of them if you like. So when you are out in your communities and your districts, you could let them know. There is some relief.
Is that on our website?
The fact sheet, yes.
Okay,
Informational sheet, yes.
okay,
But we will send the link over to you.
yeah. Sounds good. We could do it through our newsletter too, to our constituents, another avenue. Okay, are we wrapped up?
Yep, that concludes our Taxpayer Bill of Rights hearing. Thank
Wonderful.
you so much.
Great. Thank you very much. Ms. Thompson, I'm curious, do we have to go to AT&T moderator or are we done? Okay, very good. So we should take that 10-minute break, or are we? Oh my gosh, okay. All right, yeah, it's a little later than I thought, sorry. Okay, yeah, so it's 12:12, so we'll take a 1-hour recess and return at 1:12. Thank you.